The opinions shared in this video are based on our personal experiences. Some videos include product recommendations and affiliate links. We may earn a small commission if you make a purchase using one of our links at no additional cost to you.
Nothing that we share is medical advice. We are doulas and mothers and not medical professionals. We offer you information and education for personal empowerment, for you to feel into what is true and right for you. Always consult with a qualified healthcare practitioner before using any of the information provided, especially if you are pregnant, nursing, or on any prescription medications. Yeah, we were talking about prenatal vitamins,
Mm,
which is such a spicy rabbit hole.
yes. Yes, of course. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so one of the things that comes up with prenatals, which we have a whole nother info session about prenatals that we're going to be talking about, which is going to be great and very informative, hopefully, for helping
Mhm.
everybody decide. But we wanted to talk about the MTHFR gene mutation specifically because one of the big things that comes up with prenatals right now is Um, do you do folate? Do you do folic acid? Do you do methyl hydrofolate 5-7? What is it all and why and how do you choose? Um, so the reason for some of the brands to have different types of folate um, is because of the MTHFR gene mutation. So I'm just gonna dive right into info. I have some notes I'm gonna go off of, but also Bree, stop me if you have any questions or if things aren't making sense and you want me to explain them a little better. Okay, so the MTHFR gene, everybody has it. It provides the code for like a specific set of instructions that your body uses to make an enzyme. Um, Enzymes are like they're a substance in our bodies that catalyzes a reaction. They cause a chemical reaction to happen. For example, the formation and breakdown of proteins that make the structures that perform most of the functions in our bodies. MTHFR is an enzyme necessary for a number of important chemical reactions in our bodies. It's involved in a series of chemical reactions necessary for your body to properly use folate or vitamin B9 is another way of wording it. Um, so in a lot of prenatals right now, they're promoting that they use an activated folic acid or an activated folate, or they'll do a 5-MTF folate. There's lots of different wording for it. I can leave a list in the show notes so that you guys know when you're reading your label what all the different things are and that they're basically all variations of the same thing. So we know through science that deficiencies of folic acid are linked to like neural tube defects, low birth weight in infants. Um, the latest research tells us that folic acid needs to be converted into its active forms for the body to use. And then requirements for folate increase dramatically during pregnancy, particularly during the first trimester, which is why it's in all of our prenatal vitamins. But some people are unable to make the conversion efficiently. About 30% of the North American population have a genetic enzyme defect that makes it difficult for them to convert folic acid into active 5-MTHF, which is the enzyme we need to do the job. So this can result in unnatural levels of unmetabolized folic acid circulating in your body. It's just floating around in there because your body can't do anything with it. So with the MTHFR gene mutation or defect, however you want to word it, some researchers have noticed that mothers with an MTHFR gene mutation give birth to children with things like tongue ties and lip ties. They're finding a correlation there, and those it can be passed on genetically as well. So a lot of children with tongue ties and lip ties, when they're tested, they do have this gene mutation as well, which is why we're making the connection. And that affects roughly 20 to 40% of the North American population. But I mean, numbers could be higher too, because not everybody is getting tested, right? Um, when we have the defect either in one gene or both, we experience a loss of the enzyme in the liver that we need to turn folic acid into the 5-methylhydrofolate, which is the MTHF, into its usable form. So it's a big deal because women may actually be deficient despite taking significant amounts of folic acid. So if cellular receptor sites are blocked by the less effective folic acid, then we lose the ability to use real folate coming into the body via food. So sort of to reword that, like if you are taking a synthetic form of folate, like folic acid, and your body is already busy trying to process that, any other usable types of folate, like you get from leafy greens, for example, your body won't be able to process those either because the synthetic version is busy taking up space in the system. Um, so to continue with that, lots of foods have naturally methylated folate in them. Leafy green vegetables, especially, are really high in them. But interestingly, when we noticed that folic acid prevents things like neural tube defects and low birth weight, we decided not to just include it in multivitamins. We also decided to beef up our food just across the board. So you'll see it in things like enriched cereals, you'll see it in things like enriched bread. Basically, any enriched food is going to have a synthetic B9 or folic acid in it as a part of the enrichment. They also did that to ward off spina bifida in children, which was an issue way back when. But not so much now. So, but when we started doing that, we noticed that there were a few serious health issues that sort of came up. So we know that a significant chunk of the population has trouble converting folic acid into folate, which leads to lower levels of the 5-MTHF in our bodies. Can be due to low liver function, it can be due to gut issues, or it could be due to the MTHFR gene mutation. The only way to know for sure if you have this gene mutation is to get a DNA test. So you can guess at it. If you go and do your own deep dive on the internet, there's lots of different like markers that you can look for in your body. But the only way to know for sure is to get the gene testing. And that'll be through like, the same one you would go and use to get your ancestry genetic testing and all of that. There's not a lot of places that offer gene testing at the moment. But yeah, if you're interested, that's something to do. So I mentioned the 5-MTHF a few times. So just to give you information about what that is, it's also called L-Methylfolate, and it's the biologically active form of vitamin B9. So that means that it's a form that the human body can actually use in circulation. The letters or numbers before the name refer to like the 3D chemical structure of the compound. But really all you need to know is that the L or the 6 indicates biologically active L-methylfolate. and a D or a D and 6 or 6 would indicate a non-biologically active form, which is not helpful in our bodies. Some of the products out there will only list methylfolate, or they'll say 5-MTHF without specifying what form it contains. So if it doesn't state L-methylfolate, or there's other ones like Metafolin or Quartofolic, like I said, I'll leave a list for you guys because there's a lot of different names. Then it may not be a biologically active form. So really easy thing to do to figure that out is to just email the company. Just be like, hey, what kind of methylfolate do you use in your multivitamins? And then you can decide if you want to use those. Yeah, so that's a brief little rundown. That's sort of the end of my notes, but
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Um, so just to clarify, if I do not have the gene mutation, then I could take just a typical prenatal vitamin that has folic acid, and my body could do the conversion work. But if I do have the gene mutation, then I would want a methylated folate so that I can absorb it because my body is not able to do the conversion. Do I have that
yes.
right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Um, I've noticed there are a couple brands out there. I think was it Bird and Bee? Was I think one we were looking at that actually has both.
Right.
So that's another option too, something else to look for. But yeah, you're correct. If your body doesn't have the gene mutation, then it can do the work to convert folic acid or a synthetic B9 into um, a methylated folate for your body to use. But if you do have the gene mutation, then it can't do that.
Meaning, if you have the gene mutation and you are taking just a typical over the counter prenatal vitamin that has folic acid, then you're actually running the risk of um, decreased levels of vitamin B in your body, which
Yeah.
in the end can lead to most commonly neural tube deficiencies like tongue ties and cleft lip, and that kind of thing.
Hmm. Exactly.
Interesting, very interesting. And I did look it up. AHS, it's a gray area on the
Mm,
website. AHS can test to see if you have this gene mutation, but it is not
mm.
um, a regular screening that they offer. So it sounds like unless you're really pushing hard and have some symptoms to back it up, I imagine more severe symptoms like if spinal bifida pops up um, in your birth, for example, they might offer it, but it's not a routine screening. So most cases you're paying privately for this testing.
Yep. So like for myself, I just through my research, I was like, I'm not sure. It seems like maybe I possibly could.
Mm,
And because of that, I decided to use a multivitamin with methylated folate just in
mm,
case, because there's no harm. You're
right,
still getting folic acid regardless. So even if your body can process the synthetic folic acid, you're not doing any harm by taking a methylated version.
right.
I would say for people who can process, who don't have the gene mutation, who can process like a synthetic folic acid, methylated folate is technically bypassing your body's processes, right? Because your body is supposed to methylate the folate itself. Um, so like long term, I wouldn't if you don't have this gene mutation, long term I wouldn't take a methylated product just because you don't need it. You're bypassing what your body is supposed to do naturally. But for the short window that you're actually pregnant, it wouldn't be an issue.
Right.
And then, yeah, if you're unsure, then you're just covering your bases.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Actually, I was looking into whether I thought I might have the gene mutation and was deep diving with Aviva Ram. She
I
has a
love
great,
Aviva.
yeah, she has a great podcast on this gene mutation and information on what to do if you think you might have it, a dose of methylated folate that she recommends you take during pregnancy. And something that I found wasn't mentioned necessarily in her podcast, but I felt I could take away from. Um, because we're always talking about pregnancy, right? But this is actually a concept that affects your pregnancy because of tube defects in fetus, but it's also just something that you need naturally. We need vitamin B to do a whole bunch of other things for our bodies. And I was listening to the episode as a child-free person thinking, I might have this gene mutation based on symptoms that she was listing off. And so she also talks about what you might want to do if you think you have the gene mutation, but don't have access to the testing for whatever reason. Maybe access through like financial access or access to proper testing in your area, because she does talk about how you want to make sure that you're going to a lab that is giving you really good information, and then have a family doctor who can help you understand the information that you're receiving through the test that you're paying for privately. Yeah, so I really appreciated that as well, because I think if you suspect you have this gene mutation, it's worth taking methylated folate for life,
Hmm.
whether you're pregnant or not. So I thought I'd mention that.
Agreed. Yeah, definitely. We need it for so many different functions in our body.
Yeah, fascinating.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and you mentioned that we have a chat on prenatal vitamins that we recommend that have access or that have methylated folate in it. So we'll be releasing that as well, and we'll definitely post in the show notes the Aviva Ram podcast, because it's a great one to listen to
Yeah.
along with this episode.
Yeah, she's got the podcast and she's also got like a blog post kind of thing that she's
Mm,
written about it as well, which I found very informative too.
nice. Yeah. Wow, Sarah, thank you so much. That was really helpful. Anything else you think we might need to know um,
Mm.
about methylfolate and our
Oh, I'm
bodies
sure I
different?
could give a lot more information, but I feel like that would be an overload.
That's fair.
Um, I can't think of
That's
anything else basic off the top of my head, but if anybody has any questions, definitely write them in the comments,
fair.
and we'll try and get to them because, yeah, I mean, I always encourage everybody to do their own research because what feels right in my body might feel different for someone else, right? And it's so important to do your own research on things like this. Um, even though
And
we're
talk to
offering
your care provider.
Talk to your care provider, yeah. Even though we're offering this information, right? Like every body is different and the way we all interact with the world is different too. So, I definitely encourage everybody to do their own research on these things. But yeah, if you have any questions, put them down in the comments, and we'll see if we can either answer them or point you in a direction to start falling down your own rabbit hole.
Yes, totally. Yeah, and if you've done the test, we would love to know your test results as well. I do find it interesting that you shared, between 30 and 40. I think that was the number of people that have been assigned positive gene mutation, but I assume that that is disproportionate because we're not testing everybody in the population.
Exactly. It's not a standard test. So who knows, actually?
Yeah, yeah, and we're not even talking about the symptoms and what to look for. It's just not screened at all.
Yeah,
And, yeah, yeah, it's fascinating.
it
I'm
really
like,
is.
nope, I'm not gonna say anything else because yeah, it can be a deep dive, so deep rabbit hole. So yeah, go
Yeah.
out, enjoy. Good luck, researching, deciding if you have any of the symptoms, and
what you wanna do about it and let us know.
Yeah.
Let us know your thoughts.